But the one case where you absolutely cannot contract, ever, is if there is... If you're new here, my name's Josh. I have taught thousands of one-on-one lessons to learners just like you. And here at English Hacks, I help you to sound like a native if you want, and to understand real, natural American speech better. Contractions are not informal. They are a natural, normal, common part of the language that you should use in both speech and writing most of the time. With that in mind, towards the end of this lesson, we are going to be talking about when you should and shouldn't contract, or maybe even can't. But first, we're going to look at how to form contractions, and we're also going to include the pronunciation both of the contracted and uncontracted forms. So let's jump right in with the basics in the present tense. There will be more lessons after this one that go into other tenses, what to do with modal verbs, things like that. I'm. Now, of course, if we don't contract this is I am. Now, the A here, fully enunciated, is I am. However, this is usually reduced to and notice that there's going to be a small y linking the diphthong I and the a or I am. I am. Now, if you do contract it, you do not want to pronounce that vowel anymore. Remember, contractions are a special type of reduction where we're going to be deleting one or more sounds. I'm. Now, that sound I, we can actually cut the diphthong, do the lazy pronunciation of it, and just say the first part, or maybe just slightly go towards that end part. So we can say I'm. Perfectly fine, little lazy. If you're speaking quickly enough, sounds perfectly great. This is part of the range of pronunciation possibilities, which is how real natural American speech works. In fact, we can potentially reduce I'm all the way down to with a schwa sound at the start. I'm not sure. There's probably a lot more there than you thought there would be. Let's move on to the next one, which is you are. Uncontracted, it's pretty simple. We say you, we link with a small w into are. You are. This is just basic standard linking. However, if we contract them, we have two possible pronunciations, and it does not matter which one you use. The first pronunciation is your. Now, this is kind of weird, and it's a perfect example of why English is so annoying, because we went from you to yo. Isn't that great? Now, much more commonly, instead of saying your, we're going to say your. So we take that R-colored O, reduce it down to an vowel sound, which is the normal thing that happens for or when it's in an unstressed syllable. So we just get your. Moving on to the next one, we have the group he, she, and it is. He and is. If it's uncontracted, he is, she is, he's, she's. Yes, it's a Z sound, just like is a Z sound. There might be partial end of word devoicing that sort of ends it in an S that might confuse you, but it is supposed to be a Z sound. It is a little bit different. If we don't contract it, the most common way that we'll pronounce this, flap the D. Remember, there is no such thing as a flapped T because we're focused on sound. Spelling does not matter. Just like if you say what is, it is. But then what happens when we contract it? So now we just have that Z. So are we going to say ids? It's a little weird. So let's say it's. So we sort of kept the T, changed the Z into an actual S sound. It changes into an S. But this is actually not TS, because there is no word in the English language that has a TS combination. This is what I call the TS illusion, which I've talked about before, where it's a special kind of S that starts in that T position and pushes through. It's not it's. Of course, we can move into the plurals. We have we are and they are. So we are. If you contract it, we're. So this actually becomes an R-colored E or an R-colored I. If you produce an E or anything between E and I, when you blend it with that R, you're going to sound perfectly fine. They're uncontracted, we have they are. If you contract that, there. And this brings up an interesting point of something that you might have been taught wrong. The words there, and there are all pronounced exactly the same. The easy, simple way that I generally recommend and teach people is just to use the R-colored sound, air. In fact, this is a common spelling problem for many natives where they accidentally spell the wrong word. Let me know down in the comments if someone taught you wrong about how to pronounce those 3 words. Next, let's talk about the negatives. So when we have I'm and not, you just put not after it, that's all you can do. When we use you are, there's actually 2 possible contractions. You're not, you aren't. Now, which one should you use? It does not matter at all. As you can imagine, this will also apply to we are not and they are not. You can say we're not, we aren't, and you can say they're not, they aren't. But then what about he, she, and it? Because we don't have an R there. He is, he's, okay, we add not, he's not. Perfect, no problem. Can we say he isn't? Yeah, of course we can. Same thing, she's not, she isn't, it's not, and it isn't. You flap that D again, it isn't. Notice we need that Z sound in is again, isn't. Now we'll finish up this section with do because it's a nice little piece that we can fit in here. We say I do, you do, he does, we do, they do. There's no contraction here. But in the negative, does and not can contract. And that's the most common thing to do. I don't, you don't, we don't, they don't, he doesn't, she doesn't, it doesn't. Let's talk about something that maybe is a little more interesting, something that maybe you haven't heard of yet. Contracting with nouns. The cat is big. So just like it is, cat ends with a T, we turn into a flap D. The cat is big. Cat is. Or the cat's big. Now we have this apostrophe S, and you might be saying, wait, isn't that for the possessive? The cat's fur is black. The fur belongs to the cat. Well, yes, but context. So this is perfectly fine. This is super common. We do this more often than not. What if I have 2 cats? The cats are big. The cats are big. So we have tsar, catsar, catser, catser. You will hear this all the time from natives if you pay attention. Pro tip, do not write the apostrophe RE unless it's with a pronoun. But also there's the negative here. The cat's not big. The cat isn't big. The cats are not big. Or you can say the cats aren't big. The TH words and the WH words, there. No, not that there. We talked about that there. It's going to be this there. There is and there are. Uncontracted, there is. Contracted, there's. Keep the Z there because R is voiced. So we're not going to change it to an S in this case. There are, there're. Just that little variation lets us know, oh, there's another R there. And just like before, the negatives work the same. There's not, there isn't. There are not, there aren't. This, that, these, those. This is. So instead of saying this is, where there's a clear I between the two, it sounds almost the same, but you can kind of just delete that vowel there, or maybe make it into a little schwa. This is. Here we do not write this apostrophe S because it just looks kind of weird and the pronunciation is almost the same anyway, so don't write that one. These are, these are, that is, that's, those are, those are. But there's one special thing with the WH words, which is that when you use that apostrophe RE, it could be plural, or it could be for you, we, or they. What is, what's, what are, where is, where's, where are, where're, when is, when's, when are, when'er, who is, whose, who are, who're, why is, why's, why are, wire. And of course the word that likes to pretend to be a WH word, how. How is, how's, how are, hower. There are 3 times not to contract. One, sometimes it just comes out that way. Even though most of the time, say 9 times out of 10, we'll say it's, sometimes we say it is. Nothing wrong with it, but if you do that all the time, it's going to stand out. It's going to start to sound unnatural. It's going to be distracting for the person who's listening to you. The second case is if you are enunciating and or emphasizing. Now, there might be some contexts where contracting and uncontracting can have a direct impact on the meaning. But when you uncontract it, you can emphasize that to be, right? To be doing. I am going to go. Now, that's a little more complicated, more nuanced, depends a lot on context. So we're not going to go into that too much here. Note sometimes that we uncontract in writing as a form of emphasis because the speaker can't hear our voice. But the one case where you absolutely cannot contract ever is if there is nothing after the verb. So for example, when I teach classes, before we start, I message them and I say, ready? And sometimes, if they're a new student, they'll say, I'm. And that's good because they're trying to use it, right? We use it more often than not. But if you don't say, I'm something, or I'm doing something, it doesn't work. You can't just say I'm. So if I say, hey, are you going to the party tonight? I'm. Nope, never, ever, ever, ever sounds horrible. Or let's say it's not in an answer and I can say, that's just the kind of person I am. You cannot say, that's just the kind of person I'm. Now I plan to make this into a little series, so if I've already made the next lesson, you can watch it here. If not, check out another great English Hacks lesson that's going to help you understand and produce real, natural American English speech. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you there.